Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another casual chat. This is the show that is everything about exceptionally irresistible. Here we just have a fun time and just chill and just chat. And we brought you this awesome guest, Zusha Goldin. He is super cool. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Yermi, for having me. I can't wait to get started.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to share these incredible things that you're up to. We just caught up again lately. We haven't spoken, I guess, since COVID or whatever happened.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but I'm super excited to show you off to the world. So without further ado, I wanted to read your bio here, and then we'll jump into the actual interviews. So ladies and gentlemen, meet celebrity photographer Zusha Goldin. Zusha was born and is the youngest of 10 siblings to an ultra-Orthodox Jewish family in Brooklyn, New York. Zusha recently moved out to Los Angeles, California to pursue his dreams of creating winning images with celebrities and business executives. Guys, if this is not exciting, I don't know what is then. Zusha, tell us a little bit more in your own little words. This I literally read it off your thing, but tell us a little bit more about what was it like, growing up as the youngest of pretty large family. I mean, that's incredible. 10 children, and your little journey out to Los Angeles.
So, being the youngest, I think, always comes with its pros and cons. The same way being the middle child comes with its pros and cons and labels, and being the oldest child. I've always kind of been babied, so not spoiled, but babied.
Mm-hmm.
And so the effects kind of last even until now in my own head, like from like a mental perspective. It was absolutely amazing. You have just such an incredibly phenomenal support group, and I sometimes I get speechless over how like blessed I was to have been born in that order and been born to the family that I'm born in, just because of how amazing my family really is.
Mm-hmm.
So it was. I mean, don't get me wrong, Jeremy. It was chaotic. It was intense,
Sure.
but it was also really beautiful. And my
Mhm.
siblings and I have the most close knit bond I've ever seen in any family.
Wow.
And so it's been a really good time.
Yeah, no, that's a blessing. I mean, I could relate to a very certain degree because I'm the oldest of seven.
Oh wow.
Um, so I have six siblings under me. However, to a certain degree, I already left the house by the time the youngest ones were born, and
Yeah.
I don't have so much of a relationship with them just because of just the nature of life. And it's kind of like I personally, as the oldest, feel that I kind of lost out on a couple of my siblings. So it's just interesting to hear that, you have a tight, more of a tight knit bond with, your siblings. It's such a beautiful thing. It's really amazing.
Thank you. I'll be honest with you. Up until 3 years ago, I like as you mentioned, you moved out. When your youngest sibling was growing up. I myself didn't even have a relationship with my oldest siblings. Like my oldest siblings are 39,
Yeah.
37. I don't remember their ages, but they're a lot older than me. And so
Right.
up until 3 years ago, we didn't have a relationship until I was able to be an adult and kind of relate to them
Mm,
more on their level. And so what happened was that they would put a big emphasis and concentration on talking to me and engaging me on my interests. And then I
mhm.
realized, oh, I should probably do that for their interests. And then so we
Right.
connected and became a lot closer.
Right. Right. Yeah. It totally makes sense. That is really important, and the strength of a family, especially, and especially being able to connect with one another on each person's level. And you're right, as we mature and as we grow, um, it's kind of like amazing that we could find these specific interests that we could either relate on or even just to celebrate and be happy for the other. Like there's probably things that about what you do that I just don't understand, but I could at least be happy for it, at least I
Yeah,
could be excited for you, you know what I mean?
absolutely.
So that's incredible. And I do
Thank
want
you.
to tell the audience, I mean, right from the day I met you, I knew that there was some spark about you. I remember it was in Los Angeles. It was right before COVID. I think it was the week before COVID. We reached out to each other through LinkedIn, and you told me
Yes.
you just moved to LA and if we wanted to meet each other, and we were just like giving each other tips about, number one, what it's like to live in LA, and then second of all, how it is to break into such a competitive market. So it was a great time. What was your experience out of that?
No, it was amazing. I think LinkedIn has been one of the most incredible things that has ever I've ever encountered in my life, maybe ever. It's changed the trajectory of my life, my career in a myriad of ways. And so, I mean, like we met, via LinkedIn, and this wouldn't be happening now if not for LinkedIn and whatnot. But my move from New York to LA was it went well. I moved into my brother's home in Irvine for because COVID hit and then quarantine happened, so I didn't really have a choice. But so I moved into his home for a few months, right when COVID started, and then after a few months, I decided, okay, I think it's time for me to move to LA and live where I want to live. So I moved to LA there, and I found a nice little place in the location where I wanted to, which is so important in LA. I'm realizing if you have friends who are not in the same vicinity as you, you're not going to really be seeing them. You won't ever see them. And so, yes, I found a spot and location that I liked, and I would just try to network as much as I can, as best as we can with quarantine. I mean, like that was when already things opened up. I wasn't going around in quarantine, running around outside. I don't worry, guys. I wasn't running around spreading COVID, but most of it was online. And then just creating meeting after meeting after meeting. I had like a really big shoot with some big TikTokers at the beginning, and then I actually had a few shoots which really it made me. I was just crestfallen that they fell apart, because that was kind of like the path for my career trajectory was going like up like this, and then it all went down and I lost everything. So it was I mean, moving across the country from anywhere is going to be a little bit difficult, but again, having that support system from your family, like my brother who lived an hour south from LA, just made it so much more easier. I probably could never have done it if he did not live there and I did not have it like that, almost base support.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's amazing, and I'm just like really curious how, like in the quarantine and everything, and here you are just starting up your career, just starting up your, you know, everything, and how did you do your, like what were you doing like during net quarantine? You were really just networking, or like setting it up for when things were going to open up? I mean, you're a photographer. That means you have to be face to face with somebody. So how did that work out?
Yeah, no, it was so right like about 3 to 5 days before actual quarantine started. I did a photo shoot with the D'Amelio family. I'm sure you heard of them: Charlie, Dixie D'Amelio, Mark, and Heidi, and most amazing people, by the way. I had to shout them out. So genuinely nice. It's when you find people who are really, really amazing and really kind in this industry, you stick by them. So from there, I kind of blew up on TikTok a bit, and then I would pump out content on TikTok, and LinkedIn would be posting 1 to 3 times a day, connecting with people. Instagram, I would probably I would repost a lot of like repurpose old content, and really just online networking as much as I can. I would try to find key players in like the industry and try to connect and then establish relationship. And then like by the time summer came around, I think things already opened up a bit, and so I was able to do like the outdoor coffee meetings. I was able to maybe shoot a little bit more on the street in LA, and so I would vlog a bit. I was very active online. I mean, what more can you really do in a situation like this? But I also wasted a lot of time. Well, I had a great time wasting it, so I don't count it as a waste of time. But I watched a lot of TV. I mean, I'm speaking 6 hours a day television.
Wow.
Or more, 8. Yeah, if you put me aside, you'd be like, okay, you have nothing going on for the next week. I can sit for a week straight, spend 10 hours a day watching a TV show. I'm crazy like that. My friends are like, how do you not have like brain fog and stuff? I'm like, I don't. It's just I love it. Yeah, so it was great. It was great. But I mean, I was also going biking because in Orange County, it's there were less restrictions than LA. So I was like, out going biking, and like there was a beautiful lake that I would walk around and like go on hikes, and I would. It was I honestly had a really great quarantine. That sounds horrible. I know
Right.
so many unfortunate things happen for people, but I'm saying for me personally, I even like compared to my family in Brooklyn, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I I feel so bad for them being in
Sure.
like a small apartment, and so I had a pretty good experience quarantine, a pretty good
Yeah.
quarantine experience.
Well, I share that with you because so we were living in LA, like when we met.
Yeah.
And then when COVID hit, so my wife and I, we were living in this tiny little, like maybe 200 square foot back house,
Wow.
studio kind of thing. And we were like, we can't quarantine here for 2 weeks. It's just not going to work. And I mean,
2 weeks.
it's so small that we can't even put food here for 2 weeks. And that's literally what was our mindset. And I told my wife, I was like, hell, we're going on vacation. We didn't even do our honeymoon yet, you know? And I was like, let's go on vacation. Let's go out to North Carolina, the Blue Ridge Mountains. Let's go rent a nice cabin and everything. And it has to sit on 2 acres, I told her. It has to sit on like acreage,
You need
basically.
that space. You have
Because I
trauma
need
from
the
the 200
space,
square foot.
right? And I was like, I need to go do my hiking. Like, if you're gonna quarantine me, you better quarantine me on a large piece of land, you know?
Yes.
And that's exactly what we did. And we ended up, as the quarantine continued longer than 2 weeks, we ended up giving up our place in LA and we ended up buying the cabin that we're here now.
Amazing.
And so that was our quarantine. We were hanging out on like 2 acres of land and hiking and doing all this like great stuff and everything. So it's
Amazing.
very similar, but I wanted to touch upon that thing of like the TV that you said. Um, so we did also have quite a bit of time in our hands, and I needed some like stupid shows, as I call them, like just to like clear the mind kind of thing, like when there's a lot going on. And I was building an entire business throughout, the quarantine and everything. And I really did take advantage of quarantine. I read so much, I grew so much. I had great opportunity, but I did also watch. Well, I didn't watch 6 hours of TV, but I watched maybe an hour or two of TV. But I watched all these like random, like Airbnb type of shows. I watched like on Netflix. There's like they showcase, I guess, Airbnbs or people traveling or whatever it was. And we watched like these home renovation type of shows or whatever it was. I needed a show that I just don't need to think. Okay, and I just wanted to see what other people were doing. And I did not realize that all of a sudden the housing market was growing. All of a sudden, we got involved a little bit in real estate investment. And then all of a sudden we got involved in flips. And all of a sudden, all those shows that I
Wow.
was watching came into use all of a sudden, and I was like, oh, I remember I watched that show. And in this area, it's like an Airbnb market. It's all vacation rentals. So I knew about the experiences and I knew what people were looking for to come, so we renovated these
Wow.
homes to match these experiences. And, thank God it did pretty well for us,
That's insane. That's amazing.
but I'm
Can I
just saying, like,
let
if
me
it
ask
didn't
you,
come from the spending the time of watching that TV randomly, who would have known that it actually turned out to
so
my benefit?
that's no, that's so first of all, it's so fascinating. But moreover, my question is, do you think that watching the shows about the Airbnb flip, fix and flip and whatnot, do you think that like kind of influenced you to go down that path, or do you think that you were going down that path and then my door is creaking? If you, do you think that you were already going down that path and then watching the show gave you more of like that information and more of that push? Which do you think it might have been?
So,
Because this is
okay,
fascinating to me.
that's a great question. So I do, and I want to turn it back to, I was going to say something about why, how you could use what you were watching to your benefit,
Of course.
you kind of turned the question on me, which is cool. That's exceptionally irresistible right there. but, but no. So the reason I believe that people watch shows, they're attracted to certain shows because they have certain interests in those shows.
That makes sense.
So my wife grew up in the real estate investment world. Um,
Uh-huh.
so she grew up always in real estate investments, flipping, those kind of stuff. In fact, my wife's family, they do all the vacation rentals out here. So that's also how we knew of this place out here. And so she was always planning on joining the family business at some point. And she was studying, to become a real estate broker and all that kind of stuff as through quarantine.
Wow.
She said, "Hey, it's extra money. It's good side on, it's good side hustle. Why not have it?
Yeah, no, of course.
And then she could join her family's business, which was great. So it was kind of it was in part that we were watching these Airbnbs and we were watching these flips because it was just simply an interest, like it aligned with our interest. We never thought that we're literally going to go into the actual investments. That was
I
not
see.
an original plan. Then all of a sudden we were like, hey, like as my wife started brokering deals and as she was starting to sell homes and stuff, and she's like, wow, there's a good deal on the market. Why shouldn't we buy it? Like, hey, this is how we could do it. And then most of my clients are also in the real estate investment world. So I was learning from them these different tricks, and I was
I
like, wow, I never
see.
knew that you could borrow money and do this and you could do that. And so it kind of just happened, and it was like kind of like a guided mistake, if you will. You know what I'm saying?
Was it a mistake,
A
or was
mistake.
it just that's kind of like how things fell for you? I think that might have been that might have been your like just universe or God, like just putting that in your path for you. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
So I was just yeah. So I mean, and that's what I wanted to say. It's like I'm sure there were certain shows that you were watching that maybe you were learning more about that particular celebrity. Maybe you were learning more about. I mean, I'm sure there's lessons that you could learn from the shows that
Yeah,
you
no, of
picked up
course.
on,
There's always
even for
something
your
to
art.
learn. There's for sure. I mean, from a cinematography perspective, from lighting, of course, yes. But there's always things you can learn from anything. You can learn anything from anybody. It's a lesson you can
Right.
find. You can kind of also convince yourself of anything as well. But
Mhm.
no, but you can definitely learn anything from anywhere. But I definitely think that the shows that I was watching was not kind of educational. Like one of the
Mhm.
shows I was watching was something called Once Upon a Time. It was like about all of like the Disney characters,
Oh yeah.
but in like a real life. So
Right. Yeah.
as
Yeah.
opposed to like the fairy tale,
Hmm.
meaning like them as characters were real and their backgrounds were real, but they were
Hmm.
living in the cities and stuff. And so I thought that was really fascinating for the first few seasons. And then I was like, okay, this is getting repetitive, and the writing got horrible. It should have stopped, ended after the fourth
Uh-huh.
season. Get me out of here. But I'm saying shows like that is not going to really provide much educational value, but it is kind of mind numbing and also much fun. So but I'm glad that you were at least being a little bit productive in
So
your watching
so let
experience.
me let no let, by all means, Zusha, let me challenge you then. Let me challenge you. My daughter was hooked to that same show. She read all the books. She watched all the shows. My daughter was doing that throughout quarantine. And I challenged her and I said the same thing. I was like, okay, so that's great. It's cool that you're into this kind of stuff or whatever. I'm not gonna impose on you, whatever. I'm not telling her to go invest in real estate now.
Yes,
She's only like
yes,
13. She's 13. Give her time.
yeah.
But I did tell her, what are you learning out of this, and how could you grow from this? And without me knowing, she actually is now writing her own sort of like fairy tale novels and stuff.
That's
And she's like,
amazing. I
yeah,
love
she
that.
said,
That's
here's what I didn't like about what I watched or what, because she told me like, oh, like the same thing what you just said. She had the same feedback and everything. And she's like, I just
wow.
decided to rewrite the story how I understood it or how I saw it. You know,
Wow, wow.
and my son, her brother, and they're both now. So my son is also into like photography and videography and all that kind of stuff, and she's writing for him and he's shooting for her now, and they're working on it. They're working on a short film
That
together right
that
now.
is the most amazing thing. That
So
honestly made my day. I mean I don't
yeah.
know your children, but that made my day to hear that. I love people pursuing things that interest them, and I love also seeing other
Mhm.
creatives and someone who's that young to be writing. And then your other son, how old's your son?
So he's 2 years older than her, so he's 15.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. Because I was that age also, like with my friends back in New York. I
Hmm.
would try to make like short film skits. I mean, they were astronomically horrible and
Oh, they're
across
terrible.
every plane.
I'm
But
telling you, they're terrible.
you can't
But it's
show them
great.
this video. No, you can't show them this. You can't show them with
Oh,
a
they know. Oh,
conversation
they
now.
know. They know. Oh no, they know. They're like, Daddy, how bad is it? You know, where do we need to fix it? You know, they come over to me. No, seriously. They're like,
No,
Daddy,
but
we
look,
know it's
you
terrible,
start
but how do we
now.
fix it?
Exactly.
I'm like,
You
I don't
start
know.
exactly. You start now, and then in 5
Yeah.
years, they're gonna look back and be like, I can't believe I was that bad. I'm so incredible now. I think
Mhm.
my house might be haunted, but it's I'm not leaving. It's good.
No,
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that it's also I think from a parent perspective, okay, from a parent perspective, I'm not crazy about my kids watching random TV shows and stuff like this.
Of course.
I would like for me and my wife, it's very important that our kids are creative and they have an outlet, you know.
Very important for
So we're
kids.
like, listen, okay, you're quarantined. I get it, like whatever, fine.
Yeah.
You want to watch TV shows, but okay, but what did you get from that TV show? Or what did you learn from that? Or what could you apply to your life from that? And because we do encourage a lot of that creativity, we encourage a lot
That's
of that,
amazing. And
there's that
yeah,
for
it's
us
amazing.
is a very core value in our home. So, and again, like my kids, they're like, oh, that once upon my daughter got into it because she loves all these Disney characters and all that stuff and everything. And now that she's growing up, kind of like out of those phases of the princesses and all that kind of stuff, so now she's into like the more okay, like what's their backstory and then where did they come from? And she's a very like inquisitive type of character in that kind of way. Um, and for her, the Once Upon a Time was like the coolest idea
I
ever.
think it's so fascinating. I
And then she was
stumbled
so
upon it.
disappointed.
No, exactly. Yeah, I stumbled upon it, and I was like,
Mhm.
"This is." I said, "Okay, I'll start the first episode." It's not probably most like my key interest, but like it sounds
Uh-huh.
cool. So I started. And I was like, "This is actually really cool concept," because you always know of these characters. It's like everyone, it's household names, and
Mhm.
then you see them in the city, living like in a
Yeah.
city life, and it's a cool dynamic. But then, unfortunately, a lot of times writers get. I don't blame them necessarily, but they kind of get either just they don't know what to write about after a certain point of
Mhm.
time, and then the writing just really goes downhill, and then
Yeah.
it's just unwatchable.
Mhm.
But
And that's when
I
you get
love
to
that.
writing your own. Like
Exactly,
my daughter's
exactly.
doing now.
That's
Mhm.
amazing. Good for
Yeah.
her. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So just asking you like random question. Well, it's not that random, but anyway. When you hear like the term exceptionally irresistible, what are you getting out of that? How are you applying that to your life and how like what does that mean to you?
What an amazing question. Exceptionally irresistible. Well, it's kind of like I'll just tell you a quick story that I recently heard. Don't quote me on this because I'm not sure if it's verified. But Marilyn Monroe was walking down the street with a journalist in New York City, and no one wouldn't even look at her. She was Norma Jean Baker. She was just walking down the street. And then she said to the journalist, "Do you want to see me become her?" And the journalist was perplexed, like, "What are you talking about? Like, what do you mean become her?" And then she just like said, "Watch this." And then suddenly people were rolling down their windows in the cars and stopping. People in the street were coming up to her, and she became Marilyn Monroe. And
Hmm.
so I think I feel like there's two different facets to that, like two different answers to that question. The first is, I guess, how you carry yourself, more just the energy that when you walk into a room, what energy do you bring, right?
Right.
I've seen it firsthand. People can sense your energy.
Sure.
Whether or not you believe in mysticism, spirituality, I don't know. It doesn't matter. The fact is, like,
Hmm.
how you carry yourself, it really makes a big difference. And the second thing would probably have to be, I'd probably measure irresistibility on impact, which kind
Right.
of ties into the first answer. What impact do you leave on people? How are
Right.
you making the people around you feel? And
Mm.
whether that's in your, like, okay, let's say you're even selling a product, right? What's the user experience? What's the entire experience? There's the deliverable, but what about the experience? And so
Right.
for me, like, I do photography, I produce great results, and that's of utmost importance, obviously. But more than that, what about the experience? And so I put a very big
Mhm.
emphasis on creating a really, really fun, pleasant environment, and quite frankly, just a really fun experience. Because I think so often people say that, like, not say, but they think photo shoots are supposed to be stressful or nerve-wracking, and they're terrified. I've seen people come to
hmm
shoots really, really scared, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't tell them that, but in my head, I'm like, who hurt you?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of photographers in this industry could be a little bit intense and a little, but it's really all about what type of experience are you providing for the people around you. That's kind of how I
hmm
measure irresistibility.
Yeah. No, I totally love that, and I think that was one of our very first conversations, where you were. So I was asking you. I remember this like the one question I was asking you. I was like, "Well, what's really going to set you apart, in a sense? Like from all these other photographers, here you are in celebrity world, which is a very, very different world than your average Joe or whatever. I mean, it's a market that is really hard to penetrate. What are your plans? Like, what's your game plan, in a sense?" And you were just like, well, I'm just gonna make it fun. I'm just gonna go have fun. That's what I'm gonna have. And I remember just thinking about like, okay, but how are you doing that exactly? Like, and you were mentioning to me even back then, it was incredible that you had your head on straight, in a sense,
What did I
where
say? Because I honestly don't remember.
so you were
My
telling me
memory
how,
eludes me.
no, it's okay, but and it did stand out for me, and this is why I kind of also invited you out here to have this chat, is because to me it was really, really special how you said, you know, let me just make it an experience for them. I want to catch them in their moment. I was gonna, and at the time I had a little bit of connections with like with different like movies and stuff like that, and I believe I even sent you a lot of like BDS shoots type of things, like behind the scenes shoots and stuff. So that was like early on, because to me that's how I saw it, is like you're catching these people in action. So you're putting them into a situation and stuff like that. This is what the conversation was when you were telling me, and a little bit about what I'm following with your stuff. Like, you are literally an action type of person. Like, you're either lying down on the floor or you're like somewhere. You're like, and like you can see even from your shoots that there's angles and there's different parts to that, which I found really fascinating. That it's different than other photographers that I've seen, where they're like, okay, give me a pose, or give me, or stand like this, or do that, or um, I find, at least, and could be I'm wrong, but this is what I'm seeing as an observer. It seems to me that you're like working with you would be really an experience more than just you dictating to me how to move or stand or whatever.
Yeah,
But
no, I
that's what it looks like.
appreciate that. I
So,
appreciate that you're me. It's funny, a lot of the time unless someone really needs like the guidance, I hardly
mhm,
even tell people so much like what exactly to do, because I feel like I'm, as much as I am like a portrait photographer, and now I'm veering more into like editorial and very more
mhm,
into, like, as you said, like the celebrity work.
right.
I kind of want, like, I want to capture people in their elements. So
That's right. Yeah.
more important than them being perfectly posed, because you have to pose properly, and there's triangles, and there's creating nice curvature and stuff, but more than that is really, I want people to be comfortable. I want them to be in the photo. I don't want it to be, because, like, if I'm doing a fashion photo, then yeah, okay, it's a model, and they're not the emphasis of the photo, it's the clothing. So they're not really supposed to be shining, but it also depends on that front, but that's a whole other conversation. But if it's for a personal brand, or it's for an editorial spread, I want to tell the story of the person that I'm photographing.
Yeah.
So I try to make it as the most comfortable experience, and make them have a good time. I think
Yeah.
it's really important.
So that's it. So that's what, again, that's what I gathered, and you said it way more better than I understood it. Like, I'm not a photographer, so I don't understand all these technicalities and stuff, but I do remember walking away from the meeting and just saying like, wow, that is a different kind of photographer, really. Like that, like I don't remember ever seeing a photographer, all I remember is my photographer telling me smile, and I'm not smiling big enough for him, or like I don't
Really?
know what it was, but it was a very stressful situation every time, I ever went to a shoot, or like a family portrait situation, or like,
Yeah.
you're at a bar mitzvah or at a wedding or something, and like, photographer, get out of my hair, like, bug off,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tell people to smile, and then they're gonna go with they're gonna look like a serial killer.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
you, I don't get that.
Yeah, yeah.
I might have done that a few times, like 5 years ago when I was first starting out, but then I was like, this is not gonna work. No.
Right.
It's not authentic smiles, first of all, and then people just end up looking like serial killers. It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were earlier, you were talking about that impact and how you come and how you really bring yourself to a room. Your definition of exceptionally irresistible, which I absolutely love, and you said it so well. So
Thank
take
you.
me through a little bit of an example of like Zusha comes to a, I don't know, a networking event or something like that. What does it look like in Zusha's world? Take us into that a little bit.
I'm
I
trying
know
to
I'm
think
putting
of.
you on the spot. This
No,
is
I'm
the
trying. It's good.
I'm
It's
the guy
good.
who challenges, dude.
I was
So
just trying to think of. I'm trying to think of. I have to be very careful with what I say because depending on who can watch this, depending
okay.
on what experience I say, you got to be careful. Um,
Well, give me the generic. Give me
I need
like,
to. You me. I need to go for like media training.
oh wow, okay.
um, I try my best when I'm okay. Let's say I'm walking into a room. I'm at a networking event, which I was at a few, but one like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
You walk in with your shoulders back, your head up. You're walking in making eye contact, and you have a little slight smile, and not smile, but just a little.
Like
You're
a pleasant.
approachable,
Okay.
pleasantness about you, and then you just go up to people and you
Mhm.
ask them what's their name and you ask them how their day is going, and then you find one point of conversation that you can create.
Mm.
Let's say you like an article that they're wearing of clothing. You'd be like, this looks absolutely amazing. Where did you get it? What company is it? I want to get it. And then you find ways to create bridges of
Mm.
connection.
Yeah.
um and then once you get into the conversation, you already have that flow going, and then you can you ask about their interests, and very 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 quickly you learn that people like talking about things that they're passionate about and things that they're interested about, and then that's when you shut up and listen, and then you ask attentive questions and open-ended questions, and you learn about them, and then
Right.
it's that's kind of how I usually network.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm genuine about it because I love meeting people. I love uh, I like hearing people's stories, and I'm very extroverted. And so I think it's also, you have to be very careful to be authentic about it, because it's very easy to
Sure.
BS your way through stuff, but you have to be genuine about it. Like I
Sure.
always say, like, you see LA is full of social climbers, right? The transplants, the social climbers. But let's be real, their number one flaw is that they're not genuine about their social climbing.
Mm.
I don't know if I'm doing a good job of explaining what I mean,
No, no,
but
I
there's
think I understand. Yeah.
you can social climb while being genuine about it. I
Mm-hmm.
believe it. Maybe it's a bad
Yeah.
term. Let's use the term networking, but you can get out there, and if you're genuine about your dealings and you treat everybody nice and the same, then how's that a bad thing? Unless
Right.
you're really trying to use someone, and then that is straight up just abhorrent. But
Yeah.
if you're networking, and also, it's not going to be using if you lead with value. If you always lead with
Mm-hmm.
value, when you're building a relationship, then you're not really social climbing. You're not really using, because you're providing upfront, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I approach a lot of networking scenes
Yeah.
recently.
I totally agree, and in particular in LA as well. I've had a lot of experience networking out there. And what I've discovered, and this is something I talk a lot about now. I have actually an article coming out right now.
Nice.
Just today,
Very nice.
meeting, I had a networking meeting that took 3 minutes, a 3 minute networking event. What happened is that I do straight up tell people, like I will understand who the person in front of me is right away, and you right away know if it's a transactional networking or a transformative networking. And I talk a lot about this transformational networking and transactional networking. The transaction, this person comes onto the meeting and they're like, I'm looking for investors. And I'm like, well, I'm not an investor. Oh, maybe you know of an investor. I was like, thank you to you too. Have a great day. I love you, and that was it. And it was like, well, the thing is like, I'm trying to ask this individual about how's your day going? What's up? What's going on? Tell me a little bit about more about you. I want to get to know. And it's like, and it's exactly what you said. It's like, there's a number one flaw that many people do when they go to networking. They're like, let's say they're a photographer and they're like, okay, how can I take a portrait of you? Or how can I make the best of you or whatever? I hear this also a lot. Like I was at a meeting and somebody said to the effect of, I'm not going to say exactly what they said, but let's say like how you said, wow, that article of clothing that you're wearing, that's so cool or whatever. Oh, the photographer eye of me catches it or something like that. That is a very common mistake that people use because it's like, well, you're already selling you, and the person doesn't really give three flying hoots about you right now, like and it really is about I'm going and I'm leading with value. I love when you said that. I'm getting to know them. I'm really curious about them. I want to know what makes them tick and stuff like that. And odds are they're gonna be aware, like they're doing all the talking and everything, and then they're gonna be like, oh, so what did you say you were doing? Like, and then when they ask you, then it transitions, But again, bringing with that value, bringing like you want them to leave that networking event remembering you,
Exactly. It's all about
that
creating
only
an
happens,
impact. Yeah. And
that only
it
happens
might,
with transformation.
true.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Transformation over transactional. But
Mm-hmm.
people who might hear this might say like, isn't that a little manipulative? I don't think it is at all.
Oh no.
I don't think it is at all. I think it's just you're anyways putting in the mental energy. You're anyways putting in the effort. Why not actually create connection than
Mm-hmm.
just, showing up halfway and then getting nowhere?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's manipulative at all. But I just
Well,
wanted to throw that out there. Like
yeah, I hear what you're saying, and it, I think people will catch on very quickly, um, if it's a manipulative way or not. So let's say those who
that's
are
true.
really transactional in the back of their mind, hey, let me highlight the person. Let me make it all about them. Why? Because they're gonna ask me about me, and then I potentially could sell them on something. Like they're already going with
Oh,
that
okay.
mindset
Well,
of
yeah. Okay. So,
transaction. But if you're really, really going just to have a
yeah.
chat with somebody, I almost like in a lot of networking events, I actually leave the networking event when I have to ask myself, what did that person do again? And I have to like, if they gave me a card, like I really have to like remind myself. I sometimes forget asking people what they do because I'm really just interested in getting to know them.
Yeah, yeah. It's like
So yeah.
I'll tell you real quick about some shoots I've done recently. I've shot some really NDAs and also I can't talk about it, but I've shot some
Sure.
really, really. I'm speaking insanely high level executives. I'm talking about like billionaires, next level, like
Right.
a whole slew of them, just
Mm-hmm.
in their environment. And one of this was like an event, right? And same way I was conversing with them, I was also conversing with, you know, my own like colleagues, meaning like the people who were running the cafeteria,
Mm-hmm.
the sound people, the like I think it's also how you treat people.
Right.
If you treat everybody with respect and the same, and you don't look down
Mm-hmm.
on anybody, then I don't see how that would be manipulative. I think
It's just being real.
it's networking smartly.
I
Exactly,
agree. Yeah, I love
exactly.
that. Absolutely love
Peace
that.
and love.
I love that you said that because that's so true. Which brings me to my last question. On that topic, if there was any one inspirational person in your life that you could have dinner with, who would it be and why?
Ooh. Wow. Um. Hmm. Hmm. First, I'm gonna go with Elon Musk, just because of. I mean, do we even need to state the impact he's doing, the lives he's changing?
Sure.
Look what he's done for Ukraine, giving them power,
Mm.
internet. What's the fourth reason? I mean, so inspirational. He was 80-hour weeks in his sitting in his factory, sleeping
Mm.
there. Um,
Right.
Now, okay, I don't think probably next to none of us are gonna very few of us are gonna ever be in that position where we have to work 80-hour weeks and where we can't sleep and where we don't. So I don't necessarily laud, overworking yourself, but I think
Hmm.
it's very rare to find someone of his caliber, which is why he is where he's at.
Sure.
So I would love to meet him just to hear what he has to say. But
What would be your first question? I'm just curious. Like, what would be like? You're eating dinner there, and you're just like, "Hey, Elon."
by the way, it might happen. You never know.
And you never know.
um,
I'm just curious. Yeah,
um,
he's
First
gonna watch this.
question.
He's gonna ask you to take a picture of him.
Yes,
I'm kidding.
exactly.
You never
Um,
know. I mean,
I would probably want to ask him something which no one else would ask him, because
Mm,
it's like, okay, whenever you interact with any of the celebrities or anything, right? It's kind of like they always get asked the same old questions. Boring.
yeah.
I know if I was in their shoes, which thank God I would not want to be a celebrity like that. That
Mm,
would be too much. But imagine, just constantly being asked the same boring questions about your career, or not your career, not your like your love life, and then about
mhm,
your which outfit you're wearing, and like I mean, it gets old. What
mhm.
is something like, where is the real questions, the real conversation, like tell me the truth. Do you have self-doubt? Do you ever feel like
Yeah.
you're not good enough? Do you
Mm,
what do you have a lot of bullies online? What do you it does affect you. Every human being, we have brains.
sure.
It's going to
Yeah,
affect us. Like, how do you manage this? How do you cope with that? Like,
I love that.
what's your actual stance on this? Get rid of the uh politically correct answer, not the politically
Sure.
correct answer, the my brain is not giving me the
Well, yeah,
word,
like the,
but
the generic answer, like the
yeah,
what you
give me
think
the
people want to hear, like
yeah, yeah,
what's going on.
yeah. Also, like,
Hmm.
how far along do you think we are from having AI take over?
Mm,
Like, because I think that's an inevitability coming up probably soon for us.
mm.
That's how I see it. But
Interesting.
I would want to ask things like that, because I just, you know to get to that level, I think definitely comes with, some forms of having to turn off your empathy, but
Hmm.
also it requires just insane amount of hard work and severe discipline. So it's admirable, as it is probably at times could be a little sad to see. But no, but I
Yeah, no,
respect
I
him, and
love that.
I would love to meet him and love to talk to him, and just, as they say, pick his brain.
No, I love it. This was so cool, Zusha. This was one of the more like insightful casual chats. I love how you would ask a question to, you know, a person of that caliber or whatever. It's a real quality type of question. That's what Exceptionally Irresistible is all about, and I'm very glad that you came here today. I'm so grateful to you. Very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, watching the show, you could also connect with Zusha, believe it or not. His website, ZushaGoldin.com, really cool website, by the way. I checked it out.
Thank you.
Cool photography.
I have to plug the person who did it. His name is Schneier Smith. He is
Schneider
an
Smith.
incredibly talented web designer and creator and whatnot. Definitely check him out, because
Nice.
he's amazing, and definitely check him out.
Awesome stuff. Check him out. Check out Zusha Goldin at photography@gmail.com, or connect with you on LinkedIn. Is that the best
Yes,
way? Or
LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. I mean, yeah, wherever you want.
okay. Hey, we'll put all the links in the show notes. However you want to connect to Zusha, he is the man. Connect with him, even if it's just to chat and just to chill and just pick
Exactly.
his brain, get to know him.
Hmm.
But I do highly encourage it. And this brings us to the conclusion of this show, Exceptionally Irresistible, where we are also inviting you, the guests, whoever wants to come and share with us your story, your like what is it that you're doing that's exceptionally irresistible. We love highlighting stories such as Zusha and all of these other guests that we have here. It's incredible. It's so much fun. And because we do believe that you have a fingerprint and you are able to leave your mark on this world. And we want to highlight you and your creaking doors
Yes.
and celebrate you. And, we this is what Exceptionally Irresistible is all about. So please reach out to us. Our email is exceptionallyirresistible@gmail.com, or that little tickering situation there. You could reach us on our website, whatever it is. Please do not hesitate to reach out. Keep watching, subscribe here, click the bell, do all that stuff. We're going to have so much more awesome content for you all. So, once again, Zusha, thank you so much for taking the time out of
Thank you.
a
You're
very
amazing
busy day.
for having me.
And yeah, so we'll see you soon, guys.